Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Red Dead Online and we're doing another weapon customization video, and today's is the long-awaited Rolling Block rifle. So we're going to show you 5 different custom designs that I think all look pretty dang good and have unique aspects about them for how to design your Rolling Block rifle. So before we dive on into that, I'm going to start off with a little bit of historical information about the Rolling Block rifle. The Rolling Block rifle in Red Dead Online is based on the Remington Rolling Block rifle. Remington Rolling Block is a family of breech-loading rifles that was produced from the mid-1860s into the early 20th century by E. Remington & Sons, later the Remington Arms Company. The action was extremely strong and could easily withstand the increased pressure from the new smokeless powders coming into use by the late 1880s. These rifles were made in a variety of calibers, both rimfire and centerfire. The rifle was offered in at least 23 different calibers, all the way from 22 rimfire up to the larger 50-70 round. Later models were most commonly 30-06 Springfield, 7x57mm Mauser, and 8x50mm rimmed Lebel. This weapon is known to have been used in some extent in 29 wars all over the world. Some 2 or 3 million of these rifles are believed to have been produced between 1864 and 1888. It was widely used by the US military, including by Custer's troops and the opposing Sioux Nation, and later by the British and French, the Egyptian army, and the Danish army, which used them as a standard service rifle all the way up until 1940 when they adopted the Craig Jorgensen. Outside of military use, the Rolling Block rifle was popular for sportsmen and hunters alike, being one of the most common large game hunting rifle, along with the famous Sharps rifle. It was exceedingly common amongst buffalo hunters who hunted American bison. Famous users of the Remington Rolling Block include George Armstrong Custer and, of course, famous Wild West showman Buffalo Bill. Alright, so our first design here is the one that I like to call the Sterling Medal, and it's medal like, you know, the medal that you win for a competition. So basically this is just the one that I'm rocking right now because I really like the way it looks, and I can't remember exactly what my inspiration was for this one, but I believe it was something from The Mandalorian, because I think I redesigned this right after I watched season 2 of The Mandalorian. But let's just go through how to design this rifle. So we're going to have our improved rifling. We're going to be using the short scope on this one. For our stock on this one and all others, we'll be using the wide grain just because I like the way it looks the best. And our wrap on this one is going to be the cartridge wrap. If you don't have the cartridge wrap, because it was a limited time item, then the leather wrap with the corresponding color will obviously be your next best bet. For our varnish on this one, we're going to use the mahogany varnish. Our wrap has the walnut color. We're not going to do any carvings or engravings, and the metals are going to be solid nickel plating, so the entire thing's going to be nickel. I really like the way this one looks. I think it looks real sharp. I mean, maybe I was going for somewhat of a more futuristic slug thrower kind of looking gun, so like I said, out of Star Wars. I can't remember what my thought process was exactly, but I think the color combination for this one is excellent. It's got a clean dark brown finish for both the stock and the wrap on it, and then the whole rest of it is nice clean nickel plating. I just think it looks really nice, and I was going for the short scope on this one. I can't remember exactly what my reasoning was, but maybe it was quicker target acquisition at shorter ranges. Can't remember exactly, but I just think it looks excellent. So that's our first design for the Rolling Block rifle. Let's move on to our second design. Alright, so for our second design on this list, we have the one I like to call the Subtle Sunrise, and don't ask me why I came up with that name. I can't remember. But anyway, for this one, we're going to have the medium scope on this one in the plain leather wrap. Again, the wide grain stock. This time we're going to have the myrtle varnish on our stock. Our leather wrap is going to be the pebble color. Then we're going to do a no carving, but a full engraving. Doesn't matter which one, just so long as you can see it on there. And you're going to put the brass inlay in there. Then for our metals, you're going to design it just like I have it here. So brown steel for the barrel, brown steel for the block, brown for the frame, brass for the hammer, brass for the sight, and brass for the trigger. So this one is obviously one of my favorite color combinations. If you watch the other videos, you'll know that I like the brown steel and brass. I think it makes a very subtle and yet classy look. It looks very unique. That'll be one of the themes throughout this video. The Rolling Block rifle, you'd think it can only look so different, but honestly, every single one of these designs is quite unique and looks very individualistic, and I think this one is pretty dang cool. So that is my second design. Like I said, it's a far more subtle design than a lot of the other ones we're going to go with, but I think it looks really good. So let's move on to number 3. Alright, so our third design is of course an obvious crowd pleaser. We have the Bloody Reaper, and this one is just what I picture. This or solid gold is what I picture all of those hackers and griefers that love to sit at huge distances with the Rolling Block just killing people indiscriminately for no reason. So this is the design I picture for that exact player. But for this one we're going to want the long scope, obviously, because you know you're a coward, so you got to shoot from a really long distance. So obviously the long scope is the obvious option. Then we're going to do the cartridge wrap and the wide grain stock again. For our varnish, we're going to have the dark walnut varnish. Our cartridge wrap, we want to do the scarlet coloring for it because we obviously need that blood red look to it. And then once again, we're going to want full engravings. It doesn't really matter which style you choose, just so you have it on the barrel and the receiver, but you're going to want to put the red metal inlay in there. So that is all of those design options. And then of course, just black and steel for everything. The barrel, block, frame, hammer, sight, and trigger should all be black. Obviously with this one, we're going for, like I said, a very crowd-pleasing color combination, the solid black and red. It obviously looks really good together, just design-wise. And honestly, as far as guns are concerned, some of them might look a little garish with this color style. I think it actually works really well with the Rolling Block because of how big of a gun it is. This gun is the longest gun in the game, and it looks really, really nice. So honestly, even though it may be a little bit tacky, or maybe you want to call it trashy, the red and black, I think, looks pretty good on the Rolling Block. So that's our third design. Let's move on to design number 4. All right, and so for our next one, design number 4, we have what I like to call the border war. And basically what I was going for with the theme on this one was sort of what you'd expect a guerrilla war kind of sniper, someone who's hiding in the wilderness, taking out people on the border of something, whether that's a national border or whatever. I just thought it kind of fit that vibe pretty good. So for this one, we're going to want to use the wilderness wrap, which is one of the cloth wraps, and a medium scope. For our varnish on the stock, we're going to do mahogany on this one because we're going for a real stock look. And no engravings, no carvings on this one. And then just the ginger color for the wilderness wrap. Then for our metals, we're going to do mostly brown steel. So brown steel for the barrel, the block, the hammer, the sight, and the trigger. And then brass for the frame. I think all of this gives it a pretty dang good stock look. The only variation that I would consider is making the sight also brass, because a lot of these Old West scopes were brass, so it just maybe looks a little bit better. I think the brown just looks better color-wise, because you want to go for a little bit more subdued because you're trying to blend in. And so I picture this one being someone hiding up on like a mesa over by Armadillo or Tumbleweed or something like that and sniping from there. So I really like this one. I think the design looks pretty unique, and it's one of the rare instances where the cloth wrap actually looks pretty dang good. That's design number 4. Like I said, I called it the Border War. I like this one. I think it looks pretty dang cool. So that is the 4th design. Let's move on to the 5th and final design in this video. Alright, and so for our 5th and final design, we have, of course, the DTG Classic, which is just my personal favorite look for the gun. I think it looks excellent. And so with this one, we're going to be once again going with the long scope on this one, and then we're going to want to use the cartridge wrap. For our varnish, we're going to go with mesquite because it's my favorite varnish color. And then for our gun wrap, we're going to do the brick red color for that. Then once again, we're going to go with full engravings. Again, style doesn't really matter, but you're going to need to do the gold metal inlay because we want it to stand out against the rest of our metal. Then for the metals on the gun, we're going to do blued steel for the barrel, the block, and the frame, and then gold for the hammer, sight, and trigger. And now obviously this one's slightly more expensive, costing 18 gold bars because of our gold components, but I think it's worth it considering how good this gun looks. Obviously the Rolling Block is a pretty classy looking rifle, and this color combination is my favorite, and in my personal opinion, most classy. So it makes perfect sense that the design that would come out of those two things going together would look so good. So that is my 5th and final design. It is also my personal favorite. I like all of these designs, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't have made the video, but this one, like I said, is just the best. So that's all for today. That's all 5 of our designs. Hopefully you liked them, and if you were looking for a way to customize your Rolling Block rifle, hopefully this video was useful. If you've got a better design that you like better than any of the ones I list on here, feel free to let me know about that in the comment section. But that's all for today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.